Welcome to G3, Games, Gadgets, and Guests, a video podcast from 702 Communications. I'm your host, Brian Crommett. I have a first for you today, and we're going to call this a gadget episode, but what makes it a first is that today, as you can see, we're going to have a cooking segment. Yep, a cooking segment. Now, stay with me. I realize this is a departure from our normal format, but if you'll bear with me a moment, I'll let you know why I think this works. The podcast is and has been and always will be focused on games, gadgets, and guests. But until now, it's really been focused on techs, games, gadgets, and guests. And that's great. I mean, there's a lot of cool stuff, but being that rigid leaves me with a whole genre of gadgets that I'll never get to show you. And who doesn't like a good kitchen gadget? So when Anova came out with an immersion cooker that also had an app, tie-in. So today we're going to talk about the kitchen/tech gadget, the Anova Culinary Sous Vide Precision Cooker. Are you with me so far? All right. So here we are in the kitchen. So what is the Anova Precision Cooker? It's an immersion circulator, which is a tool that creates a temperature-controlled water bath. And that bath allows us to cook via the sous vide process. Sous vide, if you're not sure, is a process where we put food in a Ziploc, not Ziploc, it can be Ziploc, I like Ziploc, or vacuum sealed bag. Then we put it in the water bath for a relatively long time, but then it comes out perfectly cooked. And why would you need that? Well, here's the thing. I'm a good cook. I do all the cooking at my house, and 9 times out of 10, the meals that I make are good. 7 times out of 10, I'd say the meals that I make are really good. And every once in a while, the meals come out amazing. But when you sous vide, the results are really consistent. It's a precision cooker, right? So if you want medium steak, you'll always have medium steak. If you sometimes make your chicken dry, you'll never make your chicken dry again, or your pork. So the precision cooker lets you be more precise. Okay, so how does this work? Let's show you. Get rid of this box. Got my whole setup here. So as you can see here, we've got the water bath ready and the precision cooker already in it. It does take some time if you're going to cook with this much water to get it up to temperature. So again, this is precise cooking. This is not fast cooking. So we've got the water warmed, and today we're going to make for you a steak. And so we have our steak here, nice good cut of meat, ribeye. If you're a steak fan, ribeye is really a fantastic meal. Look at all the marbling there. All right, so we're gonna season this up really easily. I'm just gonna put some salt, a little more salt than that. Okay, and if you cook a lot, you know that sometimes you don't wanna put a bunch of pepper on something when you're gonna cook it, because pepper can burn. But in the bag here, in the sous vide process, you really don't have to worry about it. So I'm gonna put just a little bit of pepper on here too. And then I'm gonna flip the thing over. I'm gonna season this side too. And some pepper here too. Okay, that's all the seasoning I think we need for this. So I'm gonna take this, and then what we need is the Ziploc bag. Now, I do like to use a really heavy-duty bag. If we're going to be putting this in water for a long time, I don't think that you want to go cheap on the bag. And so I'm using a heavy-duty freezer bag. If you have a vacuum sealer, food saver or the like, that's really a great way to do it. I had a food saver. It broke down yesterday before we decided to do this shoot, so we get Ziploc today. But I'm using the freezer bag, like I say. And all you do is you slide that piece of meat. You can even put a couple in the bag here. You just slide that piece of meat to the bottom of the bag. And then, just get this out of the way. You're gonna wanna get all the air out of the bag. And of course, there's a couple ways to get air out of the bag. But the preferred method when you're doing sous vide is just to take this and immerse it in the water. And as this starts to sink, it's going to start to force some of the air out. And you can use something to help you push it down a little bit. And as you're pushing it to the bottom, it's going to push some of the air out. So you do the best you can to get as much air out as you can, and then you seal that up. And then we'll clip it to the side. And I was using these tongs because these tongs are great to hold them in at the bottom and make sure it doesn't float, because that's important. You can't have it float. If it floats, it's not going to cook evenly. But you can do a lot with just a little like chip bag clip too. So that's all you have to do to prep sous vide cooking. But now that we've got that all prepped, we should look at the app to figure out how we're going to cook this. So, up with the phone, and here is the app. You just download the app from Anova. It's got recipes, a guide for you, and then it's got more recipes. So you've got your own recipes. We're just gonna look right away at the guide, and we know that we're gonna cook a ribeye steak. So we go into beef and to ribeye steak, and you can scroll through here then. If we like our steak very rare to rare, it tells us it'll cook it at 124 degrees for an hour. That's a little too rare for me personally. So if we like it medium rare, that'd be 129 degrees for an hour. Personally, I've always been a medium guy. I think medium's a good mix of texture and flavor, and so for medium, we're gonna wanna cook it at 139.5 degrees, precision again, for 1 hour. So we select that, and I've actually had this running. So we'll set this, and we're gonna start cooking ribeye, steak medium. You can see 139.5, 1 hour. Start the Anova, and it connects via Bluetooth to the Anova. It also connects over Wi-Fi, so you don't need to be that close. Right here in the studio today, I'm connected via Bluetooth. And so you've got just a little bit different app view here, connect to Bluetooth, than you would over Wi-Fi, which is a little weird, but you get all the info you need here, all right? So at this point, you walk away. You set it there. It's gonna take you an hour, which I get it. If you're impatient, that's a long time to wait for a steak. But you set it for an hour, you forget it, and this will go off when it's time to come back for step 2. So I'm gonna shut this off, put this back in my pocket, and I'm gonna show you what a sous vide steak looks like right out of the bag, because it's not quite done when it's done. So let me pull out a plate here. And I have had one cooking, because we didn't want you to have to wait an hour. So I have had one cooking here. And I'm just gonna open this up. And I'm gonna put this perfectly cooked 139.5 degree medium steak on the plate. That doesn't really look good at all. So what we're missing here, right? What we're missing here is that attractive color that you're gonna get either from the grill or from a pan. So those are really the two preferred methods to finish sous vide cooking. You're gonna cook the meat through, whether it's steak or chicken or pork or whatever it is, you're gonna cook the meat through, and then you're gonna find in those recipes that there's a finishing step. And in the finishing step, that's where we're gonna put the crust on this steak, and we're gonna make it look and taste as good as anything that you're gonna get at any steakhouse anywhere. As you can see from the smoke rising out of this pan here, I get this pan screaming hot. We're gonna sear this steak now. So the first thing you wanna do when you're done and you're with the sous vide and you're gonna go to the finishing stages, you wanna make sure you got any water or as much water off the steak as you can. And we're not talking water that came through the bag, right? We're just talking the juice that came out of the steak as it was cooking. So we're going to give it a nice sear on all sides, and I'm gonna drop it right on this cast iron pan. I'm gonna sear the fat on the back there just a little bit, because not only will the searing give you good visual appeal, it's gonna impart some flavor to that steak too, right? So, got a nice little sear right there. We're gonna lay that right down. This isn't gonna take long. Maybe 30 seconds aside, and we're gonna be ready to go. You do wanna make sure that there's good contact, so you can press lightly a little bit here. Make sure the contact is good. If you don't have a well-seasoned pan here, you do want to make sure that you've got some oil. A ribeye is a good fatty cut, and so we don't have to worry too much about the steak sticking, but just keep in mind, if you're going with a leaner cut of meat, if you're going to sear some chicken or something like that to finish that, you are going to want a little bit of oil for that. So let's go ahead and flip that over. Maybe even kick this heat up just a little bit more. I'm going to leave it there for maybe just a minute, because I want that really good crust on there. And while that's cooking, I'm going to get rid of this dirty plate. I'm going to bring this one out. We are going to have to take one more pause while I get rid of this pan and get the cutting board back over here so that we can see the finished product and we can actually cut into this steak, and then we'll probably have to try a little to see how good it is. All right, so have a look here. We've got a great sear on it now. If you look at the before and after, this is a much more appetizing looking steak than we had, right? So now it's the moment of truth. We've spent just the last couple minutes letting this rest a little bit. Honestly, because of the way sous vide works, it's not as important to let it rest before you cut it, because you're not applying a lot of really direct heat, and then the juices don't have to redistribute quite as much. Still, best practice, right, to leave it a little bit. So I'm going to put these down, and now this is the moment of truth, right? This is when we cut in, and we actually see how attractive and evenly cut or evenly cooked sous vide makes your steak. So look at that. So I don't know how much you pay attention to your steak when you're eating it, but if you've looked at direct heat methods, you're going to see the outside is a little bit more done than the inside, and when you've got sous vide, it's perfectly cooked, same temperature all the way through. We've got just a little bit of crust here and a little bit of crust there, and that's it. Otherwise, this is the same. This is uniform. This is juicy. I mean, you can see that just as I'm moving the meat around just a little bit. So let me cut the rest of this up, and let's just put it on the plate here, and then we can get to the best part, which is tasting. I got this sous vide cooker over the weekend, and in that time, we of course had to make some steak. We also made some pork chops in it already. We've made some chicken in it. There's all sorts of websites out there and all sorts of blogs that talk about everything you can do with sous vide. Hard-boiled eggs, is notoriously something that if you're a perfectionist is hard to get perfect every time. Let's just get some of that on this plate. That's not the most attractive arrangement, but again, every slice perfectly cooked. And again, that's the beauty of sous vide. So let's go ahead. I'm going to get this out of the way. And we're going to have to do a little bit of tasting here. All right. Let's cut in to this little piece here. And if we decide that we need a little more salt, we could do that, but it's a well done piece of steak. So there you go, sous vide cooking with the Anova immersion cooker. If you're a good cook, this can make you better. If you're not a great cook, this can also make you better. So it's a win no matter where you are. The Anova is available on Amazon right now. It retails for $149, but at the time of this recording, it's actually on sale for $109. So if you get this and it's still there, pick one up. And that's it. This was the first ever cooking segment and my review of the Anova Sous Vide Cooker. So if you like this, please let us know. Comment, tell all your friends. Remember to share, like, subscribe, because we've got more shows coming up with interesting games, gadgets, and guests. So until next time, I'm Brian Crommett. This is G3. Game on.